Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be talking about something a little bit improvised today, as it seems like as though I have to address things because people can't really think for themselves in this regard. So, I have been playing Last Epoch for the past 4 years now. I've been playing for a very, very long time. 4 years is an absurd amount of time. That is about the same amount of time that I've known my wife for now. I actually am married to her now after about like 5 years of being in a relationship with her. And that is about the same amount of time that I've known Last Epoch as well. So to say that I am not knowledgeable about Last Epoch would be to be insane. So, to continue on this conversation, recently, Perry and we have been talking a lot about all of the new stuff for 1.0. So, like, for instance, there's stuff like Falconer and Warlock and the new Shaman stuff eventually. Hopefully, we'll get to see that soon. All of these things, there's a lot of new stuff, and I'm really hyped for all of it. But it seems like as though there's this kind of discourse where people think that I actually hate Last Epoch. So, where does that come from? Well, that is because recently I have been criticizing specific things about like Falconer. I've been criticizing specific things about the trade system and stuff like that. And people really think that it's because I either hate the game or I'm trying to attack the game. Now, if anyone with a brain knows, they know that if you have been in a relationship with anything for more than a year or two, you will start to see flaws. And that is just simply put how relationships work. If you've been together with a singular person for a very, very, very long time, you will eventually find things that you dislike about your partner, whether or not you like it or not. It will happen no matter what. And after 5 years, like 4 to 5 years with the same video game, you eventually will see things that you dislike. And you are going to have an opinion about those kind of things, and you're going to bring those things up when you talk about them. Now, does that mean that you hate the video game? No, that doesn't mean you hate the video game. To be honest, it means the quite opposite. It means you love the video game because you want it to be the best it very well can be. And to do that, you got to give a little bit of feedback. And the problem is, a lot of people don't understand that just because I give feedback, it does not mean I hate the video game. Now, recently, there was a lot of discourse about Falconer in general, and I was like, hey, I like all of the other stuff Falconer's bringing, like for instance, the net trap stuff. I like all the net trap stuff, I like all the explosive trap stuff, but actual Falconer doesn't really interest me all that much. Now, there's a few reasons for that. The first thing's off, Rogue's balance in general has not been the best over the years. If you're well aware of Rogue's balance, it's been all over the place. It's been having a lot of issues of late, mainly because, like, why would you ever play anything else when you could just play Umbra Blade Shadow Daggers? And that has been the primary discussion on Rogue for the very longest times of now, which means that I'm not very hyped for anything Rogue related. And that is just because, well, why would you play this if you play Shadow Daggers? As someone who makes content, that is a very bad thing. Because when you make content for a video game, you generally want to make a bunch of variety, and if there's no variety in the mastery, like for instance Blade Dancer for the longest of times, that is very poor for you because that means that whenever you enter the class, you're just like, well, what am I going to do today? Another flavor of Umbra Blades? So that's why I wasn't really excited for Falconer in general. Now, does that mean I hate Last Epoch? No. Now, if someone else would actually think for themselves, they would realize that sometimes people are going to have negative opinions, guys. Like, even about the video game you love, and even about the video game they love as well. It's completely okay to have opinions. And of course, maybe I've been a little too negative here or there, but that doesn't mean I hate the video game just because I have a bunch of opinions about the video game. That just means I love the video game even more. If I actually hated the video game, When I have made like 500 plus videos on like Last Epoch, I don't know if you guys know how long I've been working on this and how long this has been a passion project for me, but I feel like as though no one understands that, like, hey, I've been here for a very long time now playing the same video game. Of course, I'm going to have negative things to say about it here or there. Why wouldn't I have negative things? Like, I think, like, out of all of my time with Last Epoch, I would say like about 5% of my experience has been negative. There's been a few things I don't enjoy, and that's completely fine. There's been lots of bugs, game breaking bugs. For the longest time there, uh, whenever you would apply any bleed whatsoever, my FPS would instantly crash until I doubled my RAM. For some reason, that fixed it. I don't know why. There are plenty of other things I could complain about. I could complain about the stability of multiplayer, about how like multiplayer has essentially been unplayable for the past year, which is why I haven't really been playing it. I could complain about like how like they keep nerfing all of the fun multiplayer builds, like for instance like support lich and stuff like that. But I don't because like I don't complain about everything. I feel like as though when something new comes out and I say I'm not interested in that, that is not me hating the video game. That just means that I'm more excited for other things. Just because I'm excited for puncture net traps and more excited for that does not mean that your excitement for Falconer is less valid. Just because your favorite YouTuber, right, doesn't like the thing you like, it doesn't mean you're less valid. You shouldn't be reaching out to other people to figure out what you like. You should like what you like. You shouldn't be using other people for that, specifically YouTubers, right? If I say I don't like something and that makes you very angry, well, you need to have a strong look at yourself and think about it for a while, because just because I have opinions does not mean that like everything in the world is gone. Just because I think certain things about Last Epoch I dislike are bad does not mean that the whole game is bad. It just means I dislike the state of Rogue. I am allowed to have an opinion when it comes to these things. Spoiler alert, right? Whether or not Last Epoch is bad. I'm allowed to have an opinion about trade, whether Last Epoch is bad or not, right? I'm allowed to have these opinions while also having them be negative. Not everything in life is hunky dory. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of negative things that happen every single day. And if I spend 90% of the time being positive about Last Epoch, right? And then the other 10% of the time I talk about certain negative things, right? And certain valid negative things, by the way, like for instance, the constant FPS drops I've been having recently. That does not mean I hate Last Epoch, guys. Just because I can have a little bit of a negative opinion every so often does not mean I hate the video game. I feel like as though I have to keep talking about this because it seems like as though, like, in this day and age, if your favorite YouTuber, like I've been like watching Last Epoch for years now. I've been watching my favorite YouTuber, and then as soon as you say anything negative, it's like instantly like, oh my god, why could you say anything negative about my favorite video game, Dread? And the problem is like, what? I'm human. I'm just as much human as you guys. I play the video game just as much as you guys. That means that I have just as many like things to talk about as you guys, right? Like I'm sure there are plenty of things that you dislike about the video game that you just don't talk about. I just talk about it a lot more because I'm in that position where people ask for my opinions. Like for instance, Dread, what do you like about Falcon? I'm like, well, I don't like the Falcon stuff. Just because I don't like the Falcon stuff does not mean the Falcon stuff is not good. I don't think the Falcon stuff is not good. I think the Falcon stuff is OP as balls, by the way, if you want my actual opinion on that. But that doesn't mean that I can like it. That doesn't mean I'm forced to like it. It's just this weird dichotomy where I have been spending the last like 5 years on this game being insanely positive, making so many videos on it, and then for once, just once or twice every so often, I have one negative thing to say about it. Everyone turns on me like as if I'm like some sinner in church because I have one negative opinion about Last Epoch. Everyone's gonna have some negative opinions, man. It happens. Like, not everything about the video game is hunky dory. There's some certain things we don't like. We don't like the current state of balance of Sentinel. Like, the current balance of Sentinel is really weird. You're supposed to be this big bulwark of a character, and you end up being beaten in terms of EHP by like all the other classes. I feel like as though that's a failure in flavor, if anything, right? But the thing is, just because I think that doesn't mean the game is awful, guys. That doesn't mean the game is awful. It just means I have opinions about the video game. I feel like as though people can't wrap their mind around criticism versus just being a negative Nancy. If I was a negative Nancy, half the things I talk about would be negative, okay? Not half the things I talk about are negative. If you go through my channel and you look at every single video, every single build video I've done, I've been all praise for EHG. I've been all praise for everything they've done for the most part. Just because I like very specific, just because I dislike very specific things does not mean it invalidates the 99% of the time where I've literally been praising them by making videos on their game. If I did not think the game was good, I would not be making videos about Last Epoch. I would be making videos about a different game that I love. So, to answer the question, does Dread hate Last Epoch? No, and you shouldn't care if I hate it or not. Now, with all that being said, this has been Dread. Off to go do something else. Bye.